Good afternoon and welcome to the Ask the SCSA Wednesday webinar. My name is Justin Brooks, Safety Advisor for the SCSA, and I'll be acting as the moderator for today's webinar. So before we start the presentation, I just want to take a moment to discuss a few items before we get going. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Facebook and our YouTube channel. So if you're not following our social media accounts, make sure after this webinar, give this video a like and a share and follow our pages to keep up to date with safety discussion. Now, before we begin our webinar on our new SCSA Analytics tool, let's take a moment to get to know some of our panel members. Laura, would you like to start us off?
Sure. My name is Laura Lodge. I'm a safety advisor with SCSA. I've been with them for about 7 years now. My area is the Regina area.
Awesome. And Riley will be presenting today. So Riley, once you have introduced yourself, I think you should just take it away.
Sounds good. So yeah, I'm Riley Hancock. I'm a safety advisor here out of Regina. Work a little bit in Regina and some of the surrounding areas as well, but I've been with the SCSA as of May 9th. That'll be my 5-year anniversary here. So coming up on 5 years. We'll go ahead. I will share my screen with you and show you all the SCSA Analytics tool. There, so we can see that there. So the SCSA Analytics tool is a simple dashboard system. It's a dashboard used for information management and business intelligence. Much like a dashboard of a car, data dashboards organize, store, and display information from multiple data sources into one easy to access place or format. In the case of our SCSA Analytics tool, the data is injury data, training records, and audit data. And these dashboards can help firms readily identify performance of safety programs, so core statuses or audit histories, training history, their records, expiring classes, or designation histories, so speaking towards our NCSO or HSA designations, as well as injury history, the cause, body parts of injuries over time, trends in WCB premium rates and a forecast of the next year's rate, as well as injury performance against peers in the same rate code or subcode. So as of right now, this can only be accessed with the assistance of an SCSA advisor. So make sure to reach out to the SCSA, ask for an advisor, and ask for some help from our advisory services team to help you along with better understanding of how this tool can help your company specifically. Now, looking at the page that I have shared here, this is our demo company. Now, just a little disclaimer, all of the information here is fictitious. We cannot show information of real companies. So we do have our demonstration company up here. Looking at our main page, this page is going to be a broad view of your company. The page will contain some basic identifying information, as well as some other key bits of information that have been pulled from other pages. So with that being said, some of these panes here, the 2020 premiums, the core, the lost time injury rates, these will all, after clicking on these, will take you to the tabs corresponding down below. So some definitions here on the premiums tab. We have net premiums. So your net premiums are going to be the total amount of premiums paid by your company for the year. The premium discount and surcharge is going to be the total amount of discount or surcharge for the previous year. The base premium is the total of premiums that would have been paid just simply based on your rate code, not necessarily your discount or surcharge. The discount or surcharge is the amount of discount or surcharge shown in a percentage. The my premium rate is your company's personal premium rate paid to WCB. Your average subcode premium rate is the average premium rate paid by the subcode. The premium rate is the average premium based on your specific rate code. And the next year's percentage discount or surcharge is the estimated discount or surcharge from the following year based on the exact same formula used by WCB. And again, this is shown in a percentage. Next year's discount and surcharge is the same as before, but again, instead of showing this in a percentage, it does show it in actual Canadian dollars. So at a glance, the premiums infographic that we see up in the top left shows very high level information about your company's premiums. And you may already know some of these numbers. But looking at that, you can see a direct example of the financial impact of a safety program. companies with active safety programs do have reduced injuries, and you can see how you've progressed here. Now in the graph in the middle simply shows how your premium rates have fared. Not sure if you guys can see my cursor there. Over the years, and compares them against your rate code and subcode and color codes them accordingly. On the training pane, you will see the total courses that will be expiring in the current year, the number of training courses expiring in 90 days, and the total amount of employees you have who are active NCSOs or HSAs. The core pane on the far right will show the high-level information on your company if you are certified. We'll also show your audit scores and your core expiration dates, again, if you are certified. The top right of the pane will give you an option to toggle between internal / external and external audit scores, but this pane will automatically default to your external audit scores. And these are the scores that were given to you by our SCSA auditors. Under the internal external pane, you will see your most recent audit score as well as your average scores of the rate code and subcode. The averages shown will reflect what audit type is shown. If it is an internal audit, then the averages will also be for internal audit scores and vice versa. Under the lost time injury rating, you will see your company's lost time injury rating and how it has fared over the years, again, compared against your rate code and your subcode. The data being used in this dashboard only goes back to 2013. So if your company has been in business for longer than that, do not fret, there is no missing data. At the very bottom of the main page, you'll see some identifying information about your company as well. This information includes your WCB account number, your rate code, a quick description of the rate code, your subcode, and again, a quick description of the subcode that your company belongs to. Moving on to our next page, the lost time incident rating here, or lost time injury rates. We'll try and reload this here. Sorry about that.
So, sorry, Riley, before you kind of go on there, I do have one question in relates to discounts and surcharges there. Maybe I'll get you to pull that up before I dig too deep here. But specifically about that next year's percentage, I noticed there's a red arrow next to that number. So how does that section work? What do the arrows mean for the company? How does that correlate to those to the numbers at the top of the page?
Oh, that's a good question. So looking at this company, we do see that as of right now, there is a 27% discount. According to the data that we've taken from WCB and the formulas that we've used, we see that the next year's discount is going to be 17%. So they are still in a discount, which is why the numbers are being shown in green. However, the discount is getting less. So that is why we have that red arrow on the left pointing up. Although they are still in a discount, they have had some increases in injuries that has caused their discount to go down from 27 to 17%. So again, still in a discount. They're still performing better than the rate code, the sub rate code. However, they're doing worse than they were the year before, right? So they've had an increase in injuries. They're having an increase to their premiums, but still in that discount.
Okay, awesome.
All right. So we will try the lost time injury rates here. There we go. All right. So looking at this page, the lost time injury rate is compared against the rate code and the subcode, which you can see in the graph on the top left. Hovering over an individual year will show a little pop-up window. And again, just shows those numbers in a nice, easy to read format there. Left clicking on this pane does give you an option to open it as a table. This is simply a larger view. So it's a little bit easier to read, and again, does have that spreadsheet down below with all of that data. There are other options as well. Right clicking on specific years can give you the option to include or exclude specific years. So if any of you are tired of 2020, you can exclude 2020 from the list altogether, or you can look at just specific years on their own. So from here, we can try to pinpoint causes of a reduced or increased lost time injury rate. Maybe you become course certified that year where you had reduced injuries. Maybe you hired a new safety professional or revamped your health and safety program as a whole. Looking down at the bottom right, we see our compensation days. So this pane shows how many days you had workers off with an injury by year. Again, left clicking that pane will show it in a larger view with a small spreadsheet showing all of those numbers below. The top right where we have claims by type, that pane breaks down how many claims your company had, and it breaks them down by lost time or no lost time claims. The pane works together with the compensation days pane. So clicking on one of these will actually adjust all of the other panes that are applicable. Right clicking will also give you an option to show or expand next level. Expanding to the next level will take that data that we have broken down by the year. It will break it down by the quarter, by the year, by the quarter again, or even the month, and then down to the day of the month when injuries are happening. So it is a lot to view at once when you do start to dig down, but there are navigation bars at the bottom to help you better navigate those graphs. So looking at that data specifically as we delve down, we can figure out whether or not we are having, as a company, injuries during the winter months. Is it winter conditions that are causing more injuries, or is it potentially a summer rush? If we look at companies that do a lot of work in the summer, we may have workers or employees that may have their mind a little bit more focused on getting that cottage opened up, or enjoying that long weekend, getting out of there as soon as they can to make sure they get the boat on the water. Things like that we can see according to this graph when exactly they're happening. Now down in the bottom right, we do have our full-time equivalent count. And that pane shows the maximum full-time employees that your company has had each year. So an influx of employees can put a company at a higher risk for injuries. And clicking on any year will highlight the lost time injury rates pane with the corresponding year as well. Left clicking on any year will give you the option to see the data in a larger view. It will, again, will allow you to exclude a year or look at a specific year only using the include option. Excluding a year or focusing on one specific year will cause the LTIR graph to replicate exactly what you're looking at. And again, if you have excluded or included specific years, done anything to the graphs so that you're looking at specific data, you can refresh the pages by simply clicking these little buttons down below, the little refresh icon there.
So Riley, can you break that down a little bit more? I think that's super interesting as far as breaking down when injuries are happening on a a larger scale, like you said, winter versus summer rush. Can you just show us on there how you drill down that information?
Yeah, let's take a quick look here. So if we show the claim as a table, we'll blow that up a little bit bigger so it's easier to look at. We will go, let's take a look at 2019, right? So we will show, actually that, we will show the next level at 2019. So just looking at, sorry, that is the wrong one. Showing that data point as a table, we can see exactly when that injury happened, right? So looking at this, it happened in 2019. It happened during Q2, June 22nd, and actually breaks down the causes and details a little bit more of that injury. Looking at the year as a whole, we'll go to 2015. We see out of the 3 injuries that we had in 2015, they happened in Q1, 2, and Q4. The months when they happened, the days when they happened, and how those injuries happened, right? All the information that WCB can share, we have that up here in regards to the injuries for your employers, or sorry, for your employees.
So there is a way of digging down. It's not just the big picture items, injury rates, discounts and surcharges. We can find out exactly how people are getting injured, when they're getting injured, and all that sort of stuff, hey?
Absolutely. And when we have that information, we can then use that information to help reduce those injuries. Once we know how they're happening and why they're happening, we can start looking at how we can reduce them or eliminate them altogether. Perfect. All right, so we will move on to our premiums page here. So this page has a detailed breakdown of your company's premiums, also includes the totals for your compensation costs. Clicking the premiums page on the main page, like I had said earlier, will pull you directly to this page. Something that we have had come up, if your company specifically has more than one rate code, we at the SCSA are serving the B rate code members. All the information that we have in the SCSA Analytics tool has to do with our B rate code members. If your company does have a B rate code, all the information that we show will only be for that B rate code, even if there is another rate code attached to your company that isn't a B. It's just so we have that understanding there. The premium rate pane up on the top right, or sorry, top left here, shows what you have paid to WCB compared with the averages, the average rates paid by your rate code and your subcode. Using this pane, we can easily pinpoint the good years or years that needed improvement to help find out what you were doing right or what you could improve. When we look at the total claims costs, that pane breaks down the total claim costs that you've had to pay, and using the corresponding graph will show how the money was spent. Was it spent on pension, rehabilitation, medical, or other compensation costs? It will all be broken down in this graph here. So the premiums and surcharges page. On this, pane, this pane is a simple graph showing all the discounts and surcharges you have had over the years. Again, shows them just in a little graph there, color codes them accordingly as well. And at the very top right, you actually have an option to switch between a percentage and a dollar amount as well. Down below, when you look at section 3.4 for the payroll by claim year, this pane is just another simple graph showing the total amount of payroll your company has had for each year. The more payroll paid, the more hours worked, and that could likely correspond with a higher rate of injuries. The lost time injury rates pane, this one we won't delve into too much because it is identical to the graph that we saw on the previous page. All right, so we will move on to our claims analysis page. So the claims analysis page might be the most important page when we are looking for areas of improvement. Here we can look at the details of individual claims without identifying information, of course, and then see what the majority of injuries are. This information will be broken down by age of the injured worker, diagnosis, source, as well as what part of the body was injured. So on the top left, we'll be able to choose to view all of the data from 2013 on or earlier, depending on when your company started, or as well choose a specific year. You can also look at claims from a few specific years together. So if you had a couple of problem years, we wanted to look at one snapshot, we can look at those together as an example, 2014 or 17, whatever you need. You can also look at the no time loss or time loss claims specifically. And again, if you want to refresh any selections, we do have these little hidden erasers that we can use to refresh and go back to the general selection that was there and defaulted.
So Riley, I'm just trying to think of a way to phrase my question, but I seen in the bottom corner there, you have like claims by age. So is there a way to kind of identify like under like the highest amount of injuries per demographic? And then like, so that shows with the bar there, but find out how those people are getting injured. Like what's the specific cause of those injuries or how they're getting injured or what part of the body they're injured, aside from just the injuries by body part tab that kind of shows you a small overview per body part.
Absolutely. So just for the example here, we'll take the age group 50 to 59. So right-clicking on that, we can show that specific data point as a table. So now we can see all 4 of those injuries for the age 50 to 59 age group for that company. We can see the general cause of all of those claims, the cause details, the codes that WCB uses to classify their injuries as well. If they were male, their occupation, and more other information on those claims. We can see that out of those 4, 2 of those injuries happened to the hand, 1 to the leg, 1 to the arm, and then all of the applicable sources labeled there as well. So with these pages here, there's all these graphs do work together. I find it to be the most interesting part of this. So if we were to just click on that 50 to 59 age group, we can also see some of that information that we drilled down to being represented on these graphs. We had one individual whose claim source was from a vehicle, 2 from parts and material, 1 from another source, right? We can see that we have hand injuries, arm injuries, and leg injuries, right? Just from clicking on that one demographic. Likewise, if we don't want to just click on the age group, we could click on one of these pieces of the pie. And again, we'll highlight the applicable areas as well: shoulder injuries, hand injuries, leg injuries, and then going as well to the claims by diagnosis. And we can even isolate specifically by part of the body. Right. Very useful tool when we're trying to figure out how we can reduce injuries for companies. We need to be able to look at the exact specifics of these injuries. Being able to see them in one place, one location, just like this, has an immense amount of value for safety professionals and companies trying to better their safety programs. All right. So we will move on to the claim trending page here. So the claim trending page will give us a more detailed view of the claims, similar to the page before, but we can delve into a greater array of body parts, causes, sources, and even break down the claims by occupation, see that a little bit more clearly. We look at the claims by year and type. Again, this pane is the same graph found on the LTIR page, so we won't delve into that one too much. The claims by cause, the pane categorizes a company's claims by the cause of the claim, and you will find that claims under one of over 150 causes. WCB has over 150 cause codes that they use to categorize your company's claims. Again, we can use this pane to help you pinpoint what is causing your company the greatest number of claims. Knowing this information will assist you with developing more proactive practices and procedures. Looking at the claims by occupation, that breaks down your claims easy enough by the occupation of the injured worker. But the best way to view this pane is going to be in the larger view. So we'll show that as a table, as there are many occupations that are included in the construction industry. If you're trying to find a specific occupation, then we'll just need to scroll using the navigation bar down below to find all of the other occupations under that employer. The claims by body part pane, again, has that identical information as the previous page that we were looking at, the claims analysis page, but does show it in a graph instead. The claims by source pane shows those claims broken down by the source of the claim. Although again, it is similar to the claims by cause pane from the claims analysis page, this pane categorizes claims by those specific sources as well. All right, moving on to our WCB benchmark page. So we've already seen some of this data on previous pages. However, this takes the information and shows it in a nice graph and shows us how your company compares against your competition. On the top of this page, you'll find your rate code injury rate, the subcode injury rate, and your individual company's injury rate. Right. So just off the top, we can look at our numbers and compare ourselves with our competition. We can also see it in this graph here, how our companies or how your company would fare against the competition in terms of your lost time injury rate. Now, of course, we do not identify other companies on these pages, so you cannot see who your competition is. However, you can see how you fare against the rate code just as a number. This graph will automatically default to the maximum number of employees in your subcode, which we can see up top at 216. We can adjust those ranges with the toggle function up here if we wanted to increase the bottom end of the employee count that we were looking at, or increase the top end as well, or decrease the top end as well. We can adjust that. Now, depending on how many companies are within your rate code or within your subcode, you may not find yourself on this graph. We do have the navigation pane down below, or navigation bar down below, that can help you navigate to the end of the graph to see where your company actually stands. All right. So we are moving on to our audit summary page. So this page, as you guessed it, contains anything related to audits. It takes the audit and breaks it down by section, and it compares each section against the previous audit, as well as where the audits took place and who conducted them. On the audit scores, fail/pass pane here, this pane shows the audit scores of your company over the past years, right? We can see the fail and pass. This view does not discriminate against internal or external scores. It does show them all. If for some reason your company did not pass an audit, it would be shown in red, right? Like we see here. We have our audit scores pane right next to it as well. This pane is very similar to the one before it. However, it does color code the audit scores based on if they were internal audit scores or external audit scores, with the external being in blue. The next pane, score by audit year ID and auditor ID, shows the audit score and attaches it to the auditor who conducted the audit. Internal auditors use the same audit ID that can be found on their certificates. If the audit has a blank ID, it was an external audit year and was completed by the SCSA auditors. However, some may still show an SCSA auditor ID. The audit scores by year and location pane shows the audit scores and tags them to the location where the observations took place. Hovering your cursor over the audit score will cause a pop-up window to appear with a list of all the locations where the audit was actually conducted. Now the score percentage by year and section, that pane will take all of your audits and compares them section by section over all of the years that you have actually completed audits. Left-clicking individual audit year and section, you can choose to drill through to view audit question details. And since we record those total answers as either positive or negative responses, the results will show 100% or 0%, depending on how it was recorded. You can also drill through to view your audit section year over year, which shows the question responses for all audit years for the chosen section. But if we just wanted to review the questions from one of our audits, let's look at our external audit in 2017 and look at investigation and reporting. We can look at those specific questions and how your company fared, and so can you. Looking back at the year over year, we can see all of those questions for that specific section for all of the audits that your company has completed and how well they fared.
So is there a really clear way of comparing your internal versus external audits over the years to see if, company can understand if they're, within a reasonable amount of variance?
Absolutely. We look at our audit scores here. We can show them as a table. We can see obviously that the blue are the external, the yellow are our internal. But when it comes to trying to figure out how we're going to better ourselves or how we're going to better our company for our next external audit, we can dig a little bit deeper here. We can show the data point as a table. And does show some information about that audit with locations and actually includes the executive summary as well. So if your auditor has made any recommendations from your last external audit, you can take a look at that right here and compare that against previous years as well to build a better plan for your next external audit.
So,
All right. So we will move on to our completed training tab here. So looking at the completed training page, this page gives you a broad overview of what SCSA training you or your employees have completed. It will also show what active NCSOs or HSAs you have or how far along the employees are to completing those specific designations. Looking at the training completed in the last 365 days, simply enough, this page shows what training you or your employees have taken over the last 365 days. Keep in mind that this metric will only be accurate to the last 365 days and not the calendar year. Right? So it is up-to-date information. Left clicking on that pane will give you the option to show it as a table to see the data in a larger view. And left clicking on the individual piece of pie and choosing expand data point as a table will expand and show all of the students who have taken that course under your company. So if we expand our view here and we'll look at Scott specifically, we can see all of the employees within that company that have taken Scott training. Learner ID codes associated with them, names as well, dates when they took it, and expiries as well.
so Riley, on the topic of training, companies generally keep track of their training expiry on courses on their own. They have their own ways of keeping track, whether it's spreadsheets or what have you. But is there a way to find out all of the training specific to an employee that they have, and when like certain courses, so like whether it's Scott or whatever, like only the ones that are about to expire, like especially like important for NCSOs because they have a lot of training and some of it requires updating, some of it doesn't, some of it expires, some doesn't. Is there a way to keep track of that?
So when we look at individual employees, in order to look at, say we wanted to look at a specific employee, we'll take a look at Adrian Kerr, for example. We get to see all the training that this employee has taken. We'll just look at it a little bit bigger here. As of right now, all we can see is when that individual took the training. However, if we look at our NCSOs, we'll look at Amy Connolly here. Oh, sorry, wrong view. We'll look at the NCSO learner details for Amy Connolly. On the pane right here on the right, the completed courses, we can see when all of those courses were taken, when all of those courses, if they have an expiry, when they do expire, and if they do have an expiry, if they have expired. We'll see that on the far right. Going all the way down, we can see all the courses that Amy has taken in regards to the NCSO. She's passed them all, good for her. But we can also see that there have been some courses that have expired that she may need to retake there. Looking just at this page, we do have another little infographic here. In order to attain your NCSO or HSA designation for the training requirements, there are 10 required courses that we see here Amy has completed. And there are 2 elective courses as well out of 4 to choose from. So this individual has actually done all 4, but they only need 2 to have that little arc completed there as well. Going down below, we see the NCSO program dates. We see when they enrolled, when they completed that designation, when they are up for renewal, which also happens to be when they are up for their expiry there. And again, if they have completed it, they will have their little NCSO logo up there as well. If someone has registered and completed the NCSO program, the HSA program will show as not complete, and vice versa. If someone is an HSA, but not an NCSO, it will show that the NCSO program is not complete. However, they have completed their HSA. All right, we'll refresh our individual here. All right. So when we look at the grade by employee and course, there is a lot of information here to look at in this little pane. So it is recommended to show this one as a table, to blow it up. It's a little bit easier to read. The navigation bar on the right still does the same as it does on the main page. And then again shows those completion dates on the spreadsheet down below when those courses were actually completed. All right. So the NCSO details by employer. We can see that this company has 3 individuals that are registered, and I do stress that they are registered into the NCSO program, with 1 individual who is actually completed. In order for someone to be to complete, they do need to have those 10 compulsory courses, the 2 electives, and then a completion of the NCSO exam. Once that is done, they get that 100% course completion there. And then they have the NCSO legend, the certified stamp that goes along with it. As we can see with the others, they are over 80% complete. So they do have that green circle with them. If they were 80 and 50% complete, it would be the yellow triangle, and likewise 50% or less would be that red square as they progress through the program. So keep in mind that this pane only shows individuals in your company that have in fact registered for an NCSO or HSA program. We do know that there are students out there who have taken some or majority of the courses required to be an NCSO or HSA, but without that registration into the program, they will not show up here. All right. So we do have a small drop-down menu here under employee name, like I kind of showed there with Justin's question. We can look up individual employees within a company. This list is just an alphabetical list, but we can only look at 1 employee at a time. And like we had seen with Adrian Kerr, if an employee has not taken training in the last 365 days, this graph will be blank. All right. So moving on to our expiring training. The 3 panes on this page will show how much training your company has expiring in 90, 120, and 180 days. The corresponding pie charts will break down how many expiries are for each course, and the table on the right will show the names of the students, the course name that is set to expire, and the actual expiry date in correlation to when that individual took the training. So we can look a little bit deeper, again, showing it as a larger view, looking at that data as a table, looking at the individual data point as a table. We can see out of those 2 Scots, we'll have to scroll over here, who they are that are coming up for expiry here. So if you're the person in charge of your company training, or at least managing some sort of an LMS system, you could use this absolutely to make sure that you're staying on top of your expiries for your employees' training. And same with each one, we can show that as a table and blow that up as well. Right.
So, Riley, I guess just for our viewers, so they kind of understand, I know for geeks like me, I soak in all of these graphs and pie charts. I just love it. But there's some people that are probably quite overwhelmed with this. How are companies going to get access to this? Like, can you explain a little bit about advisory services and how they can help it?
Absolutely. So we do have a goal to have a member forward facing portion of this, but that is not what we have right now. As of right now, you do need to be assisted with this through advisory services. So reaching out to the SCSA and asking for an advisor, or even just asking to be shown this tool and how it could work for your company. Eventually a request will be put into advisory services, and you'll be reached out to or contacted by an advisor who is able to help you out. We have advisors in both cities that are trained up on this new software that we're using, and how we can use it to better health and safety programs within our membership as a whole. But that first step is going to be, if you're interested with what you see here, want to see how it can work with your company, to give us a call, start that ball rolling, and we'll make sure that we can help you out the best we can. Absolutely. The last page we have here is just a little bit of identifying information. So obviously this is our demo company. We don't have real identifying information here from a real company, but it will have your information. So within our own SCSA systems, we have our own identifying information that we will have it shown displayed here. And then same with WCB's data. They're the firm number, your firm name, as well as our developer, their regulator ID for you as well. And any contact information that you have shared with WCB will show up there as well. But aside from that, that is our SCSA Analytics dashboard. I know there was a lot of information there to go through all those pages and panes, and diving down a little bit deeper into some more specifics of the data. But like Laura, like you had said, we can work with companies, we can break it up a little bit to look at specific pages and, try to pinpoint those specific areas of improvement that a company has to help them out, either to get a better score on their audit or overall just to reduce their injuries within their company.
Exactly. I think this tool is going to be super helpful for companies that, a lot of this data, like you said, it's not new data, right? They have the information, but a lot of times it's not in an easy to understand way, and you can't dig down and dig down and dig down to get, all those important pieces that tell you that, most of your injuries happen in the winter months or something like that, right? So this is a really cool tool for members to be able to dig down and see all that and then take action, right? And make those subtle changes or big changes to reduce their injury rates and get themselves into a discount situation or an even better discount situation.
Absolutely.
All right, so this concludes our SCSA Wednesday webinar on the SCSA Analytics tool. So I'd like to take a moment to thank our panelists, as well as I'd like to thank all of you. By watching and participating in these discussions, we are all working together in making Saskatchewan the safest construction environment in Canada. So make sure you tune in next week for our Toolbox Tuesday at 10 a.m. and our Wednesday webinars, which will be on the first Wednesday of every month at noon. I believe our next webinar will be on the 7th of April. I also want to remind everyone that we have all our webinar presentations and Toolbox talks available on our YouTube channel. These are a great resource for training and Toolbox talks, especially like us, if you're still doing your meetings online or in a separated environment. Remember to like and share this video and follow us on all social media platforms. Have a great day, everyone. Work safe.